Good morning. Good morning. So this week, we are at One Mom's Battle, and me personally, and even my husband, changed his profile picture. We are remembering Kira out of Canada. Her father murdered her. And her mom, Jennifer, has become a fierce advocate and a voice for so many of you, for all of us, and for our children. And February 9th would have been Kira's birthday. And so I just wanted to take a moment to encourage you. There's a hashtag remembering Kira, and it's KEIRA. And there's profile picture frames. You can change your profile picture on Facebook to remembrance of Kira. And she loved pink, and she sparkled, and she loves unicorns. And so whatever you can do to help us all keep her light shining brightly, because I know that for me personally as an advocate in the family court system, and that what Jennifer is living through right now is all of our worst nightmares. And so I really just wanted to pause and encourage you to change your profile picture on Facebook or your frame to remembering Kira. I'm going to change my header on Facebook to be pink and rainbows and sparkly, everything that she was and still is to many of us. So good morning, Jenny from Oklahoma. Let's see what else is going on. I have been so incredibly busy with the coach training program. We are finishing week 3 right now, and the feedback has been phenomenal. Good morning from Ontario. We were just talking about little Kira up in Canada and remembering her this week. The coach training program, we are halfway through. I am going to have such an amazing group to refer you to all over the country, and even to in Canada. And so that's so exciting for me. I know people email me and can't get on my calendar because I'm booked out quite a ways. And the thing I am most excited about is having a group trained that I have personally downloaded every bit of information from my brain over the past decade, and will continue to do that. One of the things I told them, good morning, first time Amanda from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was just in Tennessee. One of the things, in November, one of the things I told them is I'm not going anywhere. It's kind of a continuing education forever. My goal is for them to succeed in their practices, and for me to be able to, when somebody calls me from Tennessee or sends me an email and I can't help them in that moment, to be able to say, but I have someone for you in Tennessee, and I think very highly of her, and I've trained her. So I'm so for a variety of reasons, excited about this coach training program. There is such an incredible need, and we're already getting tons of messages saying, how do I get set up with one of your coaches? So stay tuned. This first graduating class will be ready. Some of them are already coaches and already practicing, but we will be done with our certification program at the end of this month, and they will be ready to, a lot of them will be ready to start helping people navigate the court system, divorcing a narcissist, post-separation abuse, everything that falls under this umbrella. So really excited about that. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the questions for the week. For those of you who are new and haven't joined us before, if you want to submit a question, keep an eye on our Instagram page through the week. We will run a story and ask for, submit your questions, and then I answer them here live. They can't require a lot of background because we don't have the bandwidth for that. And it kind of, the best case scenario is something that we're all going through, something that everyone can relate to. Howdy Adam says, friend going through same things you just starting divorce journey, stinks that only physical abuse counts. Does friend force almost 17-year-old for visitation? No overnights though. Great segue into the fact that I cannot give legal advice. That is my fine print. I'm not qualified to do that, nor would I want to do that. But I can share what I see happening in cases like this and the lens that I'm viewing through the family court system. The first thing I would personally look into if I were facing that situation is, what does my state say? For example, here in California, the golden age is 14. Some states don't, it's 18 until you age out of the system. And yeah, the attorney says it looks bad if they don't give something. And that's typically very accurate. But even here in California, even with the age being 14, that's not a, final be-all rule. I've seen judges force 16-year-olds into cars. 17 years old, I've seen that happen too, unfortunately. I think that, we've seen judges, not here in California, but we've seen judges bring kids into the courtroom in these situations and say, if you don't get in the car on on his parenting time or vice versa, your mom's going to jail. And I've seen that happen with 17-year-old children or young adults. So we're in a very broken system, as we all know. That's why we're here, talking bright and early in the morning. I don't know enough about the situation to weigh in on that. Typically, a 17-year-old would have quite a bit of a voice, but yeah, unfortunately, parental rights trump a child's rights, and especially if the person's not getting overnight visits. Sometimes it's a hard situation. I think that if I were in that place right now, I would be doing my best to show that I was trying to facilitate a relationship between the parent and child. Just because I know that we're all under a microscope in the court system, and it's just so broken. So, but then behind the scenes, for me, it's always been about empowering my kids so that, and never directed to their other parent, but just in general, having a voice and how important their voice is and their boundaries. And those are physical, mental, emotional, psychological, all of it. That boundaries are not just, police tape that you see put up. And so, that's kind of been my goal behind the scenes, is to prepare my child. The reality is there are toxic people in the world all over the place, and our kids have to know how to navigate that, because it's going to come up, whether it's their unhealthy parent or a boss or a coworker or a romantic relationship. So and if you're in doubt about what your attorney is telling you, get another opinion. I am a huge fan, even if your attorney is the best in the world, to talk to other attorneys and get different angles and strategies, because you just never know that this case may remind them of another case they worked on and case law that they used. So, just I would never just take one attorney's word at face value. I would always get other opinions. So that's my advice. Questions for today. This comes up a lot in my the survivor groups that I run. It's come up recently in my coach training program. Has blogging or talking about my ex ever been used against you in court? He tried very hard in the beginning. It's Deanna. Hello. Below zero. Oh my gosh. Deanna is in my coach training program. So I'm so happy to see her here. So this is a topic we just talked about. And, you know, in the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing when I started my blog because there was no one out there doing this kind of work and there were no resources available. So I was openly blogging about every detail of my case, of the red flags in my relationship with my ex-husband. I didn't use his name and I had switched to using my maiden name. So there would be nobody to connect the dots. You would never know who he was. But did he print out my entire blog and submit it to family court? Yeah, he did. And that was his, you know, the foundation of his alienation claim. I was able to, somebody just said, good morning from Slow. Hello. Which Sarah? Do I know you, Sarah? Wondering if it's a Sarah. I think it might be. So, you know, he submitted all of that. It was his claim that I was alienating the kids. I was able to show that I had gone to extreme lengths to block my kids from ever finding out about my blog. I had parental controls on all of our devices, so you couldn't Google my name. You couldn't Google my blog. When I went on to write books, you couldn't Google those. The girls knew that I wrote books. I even tried to shelter from that for a while. And I remember we were out at a restaurant one night and somebody came by our table because we live in a small town and they were like, congratulations on your new book. You know, that's so impressive. I've always wanted to write a book. And my kids are looking at me like, wait, what? And I wanted to shoot daggers out of my eyeballs at this person, which in hindsight, I get it. You know, they would have no idea that I was trying to shelter my kids from the fact that I was now an author. So my kids knew that I wrote a book back then, and I just told them it was a book to help other moms going through divorces, but they had no idea what the title was. I didn't keep the books in the house. So thank God I really safeguarded myself without knowing how bad that could have hurt me. And it's a topic that's, you know, on the minds of so many of my divorce coach training students right now because they're, you know, it's their concern. They want to know, is my ex going to be able to use this against me? And my overall advice has been, you know, I personally wouldn't blog about your story. You know, one of our coaches, you know, her blog or her website says that she experienced a high conflict divorce. And that, you know, her attorney has verified that's your truth. No one can deny that. So, you know, with defamation, slander, you know, in other courts of law, the burden of proof is pretty high. You know, you almost have to show that you've lost income. My understanding from talking to attorneys that you've lost income, that it has affected your life some way. But love holistic living. Yes, you know me well. Oh, this is going to make me crazy. Now you have to email me afterwards and tell me which Sarah this is, because I do think I know, and I think we need to catch up. So just, you know, be cautious. There are courts, and I've said from day one, writing my blog in any other court in the US, I'm glad that I was in the courtroom I was. Other judges, I could have lost my children. And so if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have written my blogs and my book under a fake name and been much more careful. Divorce coaching, that's a whole nother thing. You're allowed to make a living. I just personally wouldn't go online and bash my ex because I know how it could have affected my case. So, yes, yes, yes. Okay, so next question. Oh, and then my ex in-laws did try to silence me. Some of you may remember that, where I got served with a cease and desist back in 2016 because their son, one of their other sons, who's a pedophile, got arrested, and all of a sudden their family name got thrown into the media and connected to my blog and my book. That is not my issue that you raised a horrible pedophile, sadistic human. So it was obvious why they would want to silence me, because I have so much information about their family. It didn't go anywhere. I hired a big gun attorney and we shut them down very quickly. So that's that. So somebody submitted a question, judgment signed by X. He still questions our agreement. How do I handle this? So this is a huge issue, and I don't know that I completely have the answers, but I'll share from my perspective. It's a huge problem in the court system, is that court orders are so vague, and we know that narcissists and toxic people, sociopaths, they look for the gray areas, they look for the loopholes. That is where they thrive and they blossom. And to really smell, there's that death flower, that really smelly flower. That's kind of what I'm picturing when I say blossom. But anyway, I remember trying to ask my judge to tighten our orders in one area because it was causing a lot of conflict. I was interpreting it one way, so did the attorneys that I consulted with. But he was interpreting it to work in his advantage. And I remember asking the judge, can we tighten this up so it's clear? And he said, no, because I don't want to micromanage this case. And I thought, okay, well then we're going to be in here a lot because we're going to both be filing motions because we are not in agreement on what this means. And it was really frustrating. So ideally, if your judge, which very few do, or your attorney really understands narcissistic abuse and the type of person that you're up against, the ideal situation is a parenting plan that is loophole free. But I would want to get, clarification. If my ex was continuing to, misinterpret the order, I would probably elevate it to an attorney to deal with his attorney directly, and just because you two will not come to an agreement. If he knows you want A, he's going to go for X, Y, and Z. It's like I say it's like playing the opposites game with a narcissist. If whatever you want, they're going to do the absolute opposite. So, and be really clear and strategic in your communication, remembering that everything you put in writing is for the judge. When you're thinking of your ex-husband or ex-wife or how they're going to interpret it, or you're getting, accepting the invitation to the battle that they've invited you to, you're playing right into their hands. And so, I would be very strategic personally in what I put in writing, and keeping in mind, I'm writing this for the court. I'm not writing this for my ex. I feel like that's where we lose our power, when we are thinking of this as, I have to communicate with this monster. No, I need to show who I am authentically to the court because they're the ones dictating my life now or my children. Yeah, so let's see. There's lots of comments going on and I want to read, but I'm going to go to the next question. I am kind of on a little bit more of a timeline today than normal. Let's see. So somebody said, what is the correct way to say someone was diagnosed as a narcissist? First of all, it's really, really difficult to get someone diagnosed as a narcissist. I'm not qualified to do that, to make that determination. A lot of people will come to me and say, you know, he's diagnosed, and I push further on that, like coaching clients and ask more about that. How did that come to be? Because that's really unusual. And most of the time what they tell me is, well, we were in couples therapy and the therapist said that he's a narcissist. That's not a diagnosis. And the therapist probably isn't qualified to make that determination either. You know, the only way to get an actual diagnosis is to go through a psychologist who will put them through all of the psych evals, the testing, and 9 times out of 10 from what I see over the past decade, even if they could potentially be diagnosed, it's a legal liability to the psychologist who's doing the testing, so they don't actually give them that stamp or that diagnosis. I mean, that's like a terminal illness diagnosis for insurance purposes and everything else, because insurance companies know that a narcissist is not curable. There's no treatment plan. I mean, other than there is, but my belief is that they're just teaching them how to act. They're, you know, they're like actors and actresses in the world. And so that, you know, they're helping them to maintain, but there's no real treatment for this. So that's not a diagnosis to have a therapist say that he's a narcissist. My therapist said, you know, narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not qualified to diagnose him, but it sounds very much like what you're dealing with. And I saw somebody comment, you know, the really important thing to remember is even if you are one of the rare unicorns that get a solid diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder, there's really no research out there to show what that means. And so I have so many people who come to me and they're so excited because they got a diagnosis and they think that's going to secure them full custody and everything's going to be done. And that's unfortunately not the case. You know, I've seen diagnosed sociopaths, antisocials, get 50-50 custody simply because the court has no data, no research, no education, no understanding of what these things mean. That's a huge weak link in the system. We need research and data to show how a narcissist affects a child. That is where it would have an impact in a court of law. But, you know, my opinion, I've never called him a narcissist in court. It would never be the direction I would go because I'm big on showing patterns of behavior and not using labels. First of all, we're just not qualified to do that. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that topic. But, you know, this community of survivors is amazing, and I don't have all of the answers. Make sure you're reading the comments. Other people could have other helpful information to add. And I learn something new every single day. Sometimes it's humorous, but I do. And then someone asked, and I have a feeling I know who this person is that submitted the question, how are you and the girls doing? And thank you for asking. My daughters are absolutely thriving. I successfully protected them for the most part in 2014. The last official the last official unsupervised visit they had was July of 2013. And then they had one supervised visit for about an hour in 2014, which completely traumatized them and brought our case to an end, essentially, because the judge basically said, if a 1 hour visit is traumatizing these little girls to this degree because their therapist weighed in, why are we letting this guy see the kids? And in that moment, I had my pre-rehearsed statement ready because I didn't have an attorney. And so I had this statement ready about how, I wanted to foster their relationship, but I wanted to do it slowly. He had been gone for a year. I wanted a step-up plan. In my mind, it was hoops to set out for him because 9 times out of 10, these guys are their own, and girls are their own worst enemy. And so, when you put hoops up from a strategy standpoint, a lot of times they fall flat. So in my mind, I just wanted to let my daughters ease into this more if he was truly coming back in their lives. And I remember the judge said, why are we letting this guy in their lives if he's causing this much trauma in 1 hour? This guy's a sociopath. And I remember my ex's attorney said, oh, Your Honor, that's kind of taking it far. And the judge said, walk up and down any criminal hallway, any criminal court hallway in this building, and you're going to find a lot of other sociopaths. That's what we're dealing with. And I remember in that moment rewriting my entire speech in my head, my closing arguments. And it was, yes, Your Honor, I question that too. Why are we allowing him to traumatize these little girls? And I agree with you. He is a sociopath. And that was the only time I've ever used a label because it came from the judge first. But so, how are the girls and I doing? They've been through a heck of a lot, but we've had peace for a long time. And the thing that we went through last year, terminating his parental rights officially and allowing my husband to adopt them, that kind of just permanently sealed our peace when it comes to my ex-husband. So, I know a lot of kids are having a hard time with the pandemic. Mine are doing really well. They've chosen to do distance learning for the rest of the year. And I feel very grateful. They're going to go out and move mountains in this world. I'm very proud of who they are today. Let's see. Emily says, is there research happening now that hasn't come out yet that I know of? So the Santa Clara study is I see it as a foundational piece in this data and the research, and I hope that others build on that. You can go, I believe it's called npdandthelaw.com or npdandlaw.com. You can download, it's one of those. You can download the Santa Clara study. What that does is it shows that these guys love conflict. It also was disheartening to me because it shows the lack of knowledge behind the bench and in family court professionals. For example, they interviewed one GAL who said, this guy had been on supervised visits, horrible human, all these things. And then he finally worked his way up to 50-50 and he wasn't done yet. And the GAL said, was trying to understand, like, you got everything you wanted. Why are you still fighting? And I'm like, oh my God, like if that's what we're dealing with, it's terrifying. But there is such little education out there. And, so it's broken. I do know that, let's see, touched on this. So, All's Well L says, I believe Dr. Ramani touched on this, and basically there's nothing being done because narcissism is considered undiagnosable, as it's more of a series of character traits. So, yeah, and that could be very true. I know that even research studies on domestic violence, on post-separation abuse, that one hasn't hit the radar yet, but Joan Meyer's work out of the George Washington University. That is where, I'm putting, so much. If I had one person to, fundraise for year round, it would be for Joan Meyer, because the work she is doing is absolutely critical for all of us, for our kids, whether you're a mom, a dad, pro-healthy parents. Joan's work we need to be supporting, because that's a huge problem, is the lack of research. All right, everyone, I am going to sign off for the day. I'm going to get ready for I am teaching a class. It feels really weird to say that, but I'm doing a class today for the High Conflict Divorce Coach program. So I am going to sign off. I will see you all next Friday. And yeah. Oh, and I have an announcement. My sister is going to be working with me. So when you guys get emails or send emails and stuff like that, you'll get to know my sister, Renee. She is wonderful. And I'm so excited to have her a part of what I'm doing. So absolutely. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.